Netflix has released some amazing Thai dramas lately. Goddamn. Sawadee Tukon, je m'appelle Axel and I'm a French woman living in Bangkok, Thailand. Today I wanted to do a somewhat small, it's not gonna be small, it's gonna be average, essay on a show that I really enjoyed. It is no secret that I'm Thai drama's biggest fan and I'm always rooting for them to take over the world like K-dramas have. And honestly, it has really broken my heart after living for 2 years here that literally every single Thai person I've met has always told me that they don't watch Thai dramas because of the repetitive plots and because K-dramas are better, because that's untrue. There are so many innovative, imaginative Thai dramas and Ready Set Love is one of them. More than that, Ready Set Love actually got the budget it needed for the creation of the show. And I always love seeing shows actually get the budget that they deserve. After Analog Squad, which I've watched earlier this year and absolutely became an instant favorite, literally I sobbed so hard when it ended happily, but I was sobbing. If you like the found family trope, just go watch it. It's so amazing. It's one of my all-time favorites now. But Ready Set Love really blew me away with its execution and ambition, all wrapped up in only 6 episodes. So spoilers for the whole show and let's talk about it. There is so much I liked about Ready Set Love. The set design and CGI are amazing, truly creating a whole new world that is so colorful and beautiful to witness. I really enjoyed the whole cast, and Belle Kamisara is literally such a fun actress to follow who was beyond perfect for this role, while Blue Pongtiwat is literally already on track to become the Thai it boy in the next few years. Like, mark my fucking words, he's already huge. He's already very famous in Thailand, but mark my words, he's gonna be like Nadesh status, Mark Prince status in like 5 years. I promise you. And the dude is younger than me. But I mean, I'm getting old. I'm almost 25, so I should stop saying that. A lot of people are younger than me. The rest of the cast was also great, and I feel like everyone pulled their weight, including everyone's favorite Tohafi, Manwisanu. I also loved seeing this actress from To the Moon and Back as a presenter of the show, which was such a change of pace compared to this really high drama lakon. Also, this show is funny. Like, I was genuinely laughing my ass off the whole time, and it really knows how to be truly ridiculous while also balancing it with deeper, more sad moments, which I really enjoyed. Similarly, the pace is fucking perfect. I love when a show can stay short while still telling all of its plot points, wrapping up everything nicely, developing its characters well. Like, it's actually really rare that a short show actually manages to do this. And here in 6 hours, that's literally all they needed. It was just really well made. You can honestly just tell that this show had the best team behind it because the execution was honestly pretty much perfect, which is so rare for a show to see, especially Thai dramas. I love Thai dramas so much, but most of the time they become a little bit weird towards the ending. Like, there's some inconsistencies. I know I said that I want Thai dramas to take over the world, and I still want that. I really do want that. Sometimes, though, I feel like the production isn't, like, the execution is honestly, in my opinion, to this day, Thai dramas' Achilles heel, where they should work a little bit more on making a more perfect show, like, throughout. Because usually Thai dramas, first half of the show, really great, amazing, will hook you in, and then the ending is like, okay, what the fuck was that? But I think that if shows can be more like Ready Set Love, where they're literally great from beginning to end, then Thai dramas take over the world. They will. I swear. They will. I'm calling it. I'm pushing for it. I've been pushing for it for 7 years. Thank you. There's not much that I disliked about the show, so this is gonna be like mostly me nitpicking. And I know I said that like 6 hours and 6 episodes was perfect for the show, but I guess that if it was slightly longer, it would have developed the characters a lot more and might have been better. But at the same time, sometimes having more screen time doesn't necessarily just only developing your characters more, because you also have to fill it with like plot points and more storylines and more messiness. And sometimes it gets a little bit messy. So in this sense, honestly, I'm glad the show is the way it is. But if I have to nitpick some things, I feel like some characters could have been developed a little bit more, but this is really me nitpicking. However, I do feel like in The Gentleman especially, Max and Jean should have been way more developed, because they were like barely there, especially Jean. It was just, yeah. So Jean especially kind of pissed me off because he has the least glamorous character of all 5 characters. Like all the other guys are hot or cute or like gentlemanly, like they have something for themselves, whereas like Jean is really depicted as like this kind of bumbling idiot that is always falling, always doing some weird, like he's kind of dumb. He doesn't have much for going for himself. Also, it always kind of triggers me because in Thai dramas, every time a character has curly hair and glasses, which if you don't know, I do wear glasses as well, it's supposed to be like the complete idiot nerd, and it just pisses me off. It pisses me off. But also, honestly, for Jin, like him being Japanese also makes zero sense, because if men are such like a hot commodity, something that is so rare country by country, why would Japan lend one of their men to Thailand? Because like from what I understood, and I do speak Thai, like Jin is not Thai, like he's not a halfie, because he speaks with a very strong Japanese accent. So he is meant to be a fully Japanese guy. So in my opinion, I'm nitpicking again, but in my opinion, this is one of the only plot points in this show that doesn't make sense. Thank you. But I do really feel like Jin's lack of character development compared to the other gentlemen is so unfair, because he literally could be like not in the show at all and it would not change anything, like anything. But I do guess that the show needs someone to always be losing the games of the show, so that's his purpose, I guess. But to be honest, Max's character annoyed me even more because he's more developed, but still not enough in my opinion. And especially in his relationship with Chanel. So the whole ending, so a very important plot point, like the climax of the show, if you will, is kickstarted by Chanel choosing Max over Son during the big proposal ceremony in the stadium filled with fans that is happening, okay? It's a huge thing. It's supposed to be the climax of like the TV reality show inside of the show and the actual show we are watching as viewers. And while Chanel acted super well in that scene, and I really like Chanel as a character, I'm gonna be honest, I feel like the Max-Chanel relationship was quite forced. I would say it's sort of a problem for every couple in this show because it's such a short show and there's so much going on at all times. But all the other couples had a reason to be together and were so much more developed, in my opinion. Sun and Day, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't really believe in them at the beginning, but by the end, they make sense. Like, you can see they truly love each other. They share such a strong bond. So they make complete sense to me. Paper and Shun with their insane chemistry, I love them so much. Obviously, they make sense. They have so much chemistry. You're like, I see what is happening here. Thank you. But because Max is such an empty character, apart from being like less of a himbo than he presents himself to be, and also having the insecurity of always being second to Sun, this couple doesn't really feel like they're matched well. Especially considering Chanel is such a good character and also has her own story arc outside of her relationship. Even though relationships are a central plot point for her, she also has her relationship with her mom and her gaining agency around her life, her body, everything like that. I feel like Max also becomes obsessed with Chanel for very shallow reasons. 1, she's hot, and 2, she's the only one who doesn't fawn over him. Chanel falls for Max for whatever reason. Maybe it's because he actively gives her attention compared to Sun, but like that's kind of a flimsy reason. All the other couples of the show actually like have reasons to be in love with each other, and those are shown. Day and Sun share a common past. Paper and Shun have a common love for music. And Jenny and Nat have a really strong long-term partnership that is put to the test and still succeeds. Max and Chanel's relationship is by far the weakest of them all. despite being so important to the ending of the show, which is not like the worst thing, but I just wish they would have been developed more and they would make more sense as a couple, because after the show ends, Chanel is still forced to marry that dude and have kids with him. So because it's gonna lead to long-term consequences, I feel like her choosing Max over Son was such a like drop off the hat moment. Like just, she thought about it for 1 fucking second and then did it. And it's not really anchored with true real feelings and a true belief that they will be the right partnership. Now though, this isn't just a simple review of the show, because while I really enjoyed it, I usually make only reviews for one, either shows that I believe like are top tier in my all-time favorites list, and while I really appreciate this show, it's not there yet in my opinion, or it's for shows that disappointed me to my core. But what fascinated me about Ready Set Love and why I want to make this video is the world building and its implications. Because despite being set in a completely different timeline than us, the world of the show has basically all of the same issues, and I found that really interesting to explore. The main setting of the show is that due to a pandemic that happened in the 70s, men are born only 0.01% of the time. At the time the show takes place, which is in 2004, which was a bit random to me, but anyways, there are only 314 men in Thailand, in the whole country. Okay, only 314. However, something that really surprised me is how gendered the show still is. Honestly, there's so many things that I noticed in this show that really surprised me, and we're gonna talk about it. Firstly, even though women are actually the majority in this universe, men are still the stars and the ones that are fawned over. This actually reminded me of the current Thai entertainment landscape, where the only ones who can achieve great fame and money are men due to the BL craze. And in the universe of the show, it might make sense that someone like men who are super rare might get more attention on them. But I do think that if the show's genders were reversed, it wouldn't be written that way. I think that if men were the overwhelming majority, they would actually exclude women from the spotlight. But honestly, maybe that's the cynic in me. I'm a little bit pessimistic sometimes. What's surprising about this show is that we don't really see famous women on the same scale as the gentlemen. Apart from the presenters of Ready Set Love and women who are born through real fertilization between a man and a woman and not IVF. So in this universe, even the famous women can only be famous through their relationship with a man. Another thing that really surprised me is that for a population of mostly women, where are the sapphics? There's only one lesbian couple in the entire show who I loved so much due to their morally gray nature. Like, please give me more morally gray, complex sapphic characters. I need it so much. I love them. But I was so shocked that even Valentine, who's clearly sapphic, I don't mean to stereotype, but girl, she's one of the girlies. Okay, thank you. Talks about finding a husband in the first episode. It might have been a decoy to explain today why she's going to work on Ready Set Love, but I really wish we would have seen her be the sapphic badass she is. Like she's a queer icon. I'm telling you, I'm not a screenwriter on the show, but I should be, because she is queer. I know this show is a straight show for the most part, but for me it's entirely unrealistic that a population of mostly women would lust after the only 300 boys there is in the whole country instead of like each other. I mean, to be honest, they could like stan and lust the men, but why aren't they dating each other? Like, girly, something is not right here. Something is not adding up. Like, of course, some of them wouldn't be attracted to women, but let's be for real. Most of them would have been. Yeah, this is a creative difference that I will not agree with the screenwriters on, and that's fine. What really fascinated me about this show is that despite being in a sort of dystopian society, gender roles very much still apply, especially in the reality TV show Ready Set Love. Inside of the show, it really makes perfect sense that the show relies so much on heteronormativity, which is tackled in the character of Paper, whom I adore. Because in a world where Paper has been prepared to be a woman's husband and procreate since literally fucking birth, Paper's discovery of his sexuality with the characters of Bowie and Shun felt so simple, yet honestly so touching. I loved this storyline. Before becoming complicated once again, once Paper realizes he can never go back to the farm and do what he was born to do. Inside of the Ready Set Love show, women are almost exclusively wearing pink, while men are wearing more neutral or masculine colors like yellow, green, and blue. During the date section of the show, older women are put in dresses, and for Day especially, who's more of a bumbling tomboy who was purposely written this way by the writers. Not that I was a writer on the show, but I know they did that on purpose. The reveal of her in her gorgeous dress and being a lot more feminine is the first time we have of Sun being attracted to her. Thankfully, their romance goes way deeper than that, and Sun doesn't like Day only when she's feminine, but I did find these details very interesting. The gentlemen themselves are supposed to be the ultimate representation of masculinity in this universe. Handsome, always dressed in suits and representing male sex appeal. I found the character of Max to be the most telling. Every gentleman has his own look and appeal. Sun is the leader of the gentlemen and is the cold and detached hot boy. Almond is giving older daddy puppy energy. He's definitely a golden retriever boyfriend. Paper has cute energy. Jin is kind of a bumbling nerd, kind of nerd energy. And Max is a himbo, definitely, 1000%. Max is always seen taking his shirt off to reveal his abs, making the girls go absolutely crazy. It was really funny to me how this mirrored the real-life fan culture surrounding Thai actors. And it felt really realistic, even though this is supposed to be an alternate universe. Like, Thai actors be shirtless on social media every day to get 500,000 likes. Like, this is the basics of being a Thai actor, especially a BL actor. But Max really embodies a sort of stereotypical masculinity through his looks that really stood out to me. Also, Chanel and her organic gang, very funny name, are very much marked by their overtly feminine outfits compared to Day and the other competitors of the show. This series heavily relies on tropes and stereotypes, and I really like this aspect because it slowly unfurls the characters' layers and real personalities as the show progresses. And I really enjoyed this fact because at first it really seemed so surface level and kind of dumb, and slowly you come to realize that first of all the characters are more layered and interesting that you thought they were, but also the world they are in is not as surface level and way more fucked up than you thought it was. It's definitely, in my opinion, the strongest aspect of the show. It's really well done. And Chanel as a character was honestly, I think it's one of my favorite Thai villains I've ever seen, even though she's a villain. By the end of the show, she's not, but she was super interesting. I loved her character. Overall, I love the outlook on gender that this show offered because while it's supposed to be in an alternate universe, it reflected a lot of the pressures that we have in our own world around gender and gender expression and gender performance. And this show is really a master at showing how stupid these roles and these rules are because it's really the center of the whole show. The whole show is based on one man equals one woman. They're gonna get married through this reality TV show and procreate, and one has to be super masculine, like really a stereotype of masculinity, while the other has to be a stereotype of femininity and be like old girly and shit. And it's really well done to highlight how fucking stupid gender and especially gender performance is in the show and also in our real world. It wasn't featured in the show, but during my watch, I couldn't help but imagine what would happen if one of the gentlemen was actually not a gentleman at all, but a trans woman. Surely the farm would force her into a male role and a heterosexual relationship to kind of keep continence. But I think it would have been honestly quite interesting to explore this, though I think it would have been very distressing. So at the same time, I think it would have been such a fucked up story and really distressing for many people, especially trans people. So maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. When I started watching this show, I immediately thought of the movie. It's a niche French movie called Jackie au Royaume des Femmes, which explores a world where men are in the roles of women and women are in the roles of men. This movie does highlights gender disparities and sexism through this role reversal. However, I thought it was less efficient than Ready, Set, Love, due to the fact that the gender reversal felt more surface level and less natural than actually still exploring the genders and their stereotypes as they are, but in a different setting. In Jackie au Royaume des Femmes, men are soft and feminine and sold to women for marriage, while women are aggressive in roles of power and overtly sexual. These roles feel so outlandish and very much like a caricature rather than real life because it's really hard to picture them in our world. However, I feel like Ready, Set, Love feels much more like it could be our reality. What was one of the most interesting parts of the show for me was the exploitation of men as one, breeders, and two, celebrities, whether they want it or not. The men of the show are forced to be raised on the farm, far away from their family, and given no agency over their own life and body, which is usually something that happens to women. I mean, we can look to the United States and all the laws they're passing against abortion and other women's rights to their bodies. Yeah. But to be honest, women's exploitation is still very much a thing in the show. Women who are pregnant with a baby boy are forced to give up their baby to the farm. And if they refuse, they will be brainwashed and literally put in a mental institution. Like, it's crazy shit, okay? And that is seen with the storyline of Almond and Valentine, which was really, really cool and well done. And I really liked it, especially since, spoiler, Almond actually chooses to stay in the farm by the end of the show. And I think Almond was a really, really interesting character because he's someone who's been completely brainwashed by the show. And also because the farm is all he's always known his entire life, he cannot see himself as a person outside of it. His whole identity, his whole life, his whole person has been built on the farm, and he cannot see himself outside of it, even though his closest friends and brothers, because the gentleman has been raised as basically family, even when Son and Paper with whom he was the closest, decide to leave, he decides to stay without knowing that Valentine is actually his sister and promised their mom that she would bring him home. That moment obviously is like one of the saddest, if not the saddest moment in the whole show. It's a very impactful moment, and it's choosing comfort and familiarity over the unknown. And I think Almond was very valid in his choice, especially since he's more of like a very simple-minded kind of character. He's not someone who thinks very deeply about things. And I think he really thought that the farm was his safe place, and that this status quo, even though he's never had true agency over his life, was what he needed the most. So in this show, both genders are being exploited by a capitalistic system. And it was honestly perhaps one of my favorite storylines of the whole show, because I think it explored a new kind of topic where it's not just one gender being exploited, but everyone being exploited on the same topic. Because usually there's a lot of shows that show the working class being exploited by the elite. This is quite basic, especially in Thai dramas. Thai dramas love more political themes. They always have political themes, even in a show that's not gonna be super political. But the exploitation on genders for reproduction is almost always put on women, because that's what really happens in real life. And I think it was really interesting to see men used as breeders just the way that women usually are seen and are used. It was just a really interesting new way of seeing things that I hadn't seen before, so I just really liked it. In this show, gender can be a prison much like it is in our real world. Women are supposed to lust after men they realistically cannot get, spending money on merch and tickets and all of these kinds of stuff to have a chance to be with them, even though they literally have 0.0000 chance to be with them. While men are literal products to be sold on TV and in ads. Products that do not have any type of family or support system aside from the capitalistic company that is actually profiting from them and exploiting them. Speaking of capitalism, Ready Set Love is a really good portrayal of what happens when love, especially for straight couples, is commodified. And to be honest, it's something that is happening and has happened in our world as well, with dating apps, with the dating market, with dating coaches, with the manosphere and their hateful ideas on women. I could continue all day. So it's already exists in our world, but here it's pushed a little bit further because it's more of a dystopian idea of it, I would say. At the beginning of the show, we're introduced to Day working in an overly colorful parody of 7-Eleven, a store populated of sun standees and ads. Spoiler, she's gonna end up with him. Then we see Day's sister come in and buy cartons of milk as an ad explains that this milk brand contains a QR code that might make the winning woman get to go on Ready Set Love and date a gentleman. This is absolutely no different than Thai consumerism happening right now. Trust me, I live in Bangkok, okay? 7-Eleven are populated with ads and standees of famous actors like Bright Washiwarit. They have screen ads literally everywhere, inside stores, inside public transport, on buildings. Literally from my window, I have a screen ad playing right now that I can see from the corner of my eyes. And just a few months ago, and this is like one example, this has happened with so many popular couples, with so many popular actors, with so many brands. But just a few months ago, the popular pairing Afghan, yes, my favorite pairing of all time, had a competition with Betagro, which is a brand of food that you can be found in supermarkets and 7-Elevens. That any fan that bought a minimum of 600 baht worth of product would be entered into a competition to win a private fan meet with them. So literally exact same concept as on the show. One is about buying cartons of milk to get the QR code and be entered in the lottery. And the other is to buy sausages and meat to be entered into the lottery to win a fan meet with Afghans. Literal same exact concept. So far, we're not in a dystopian alternate universe of Bangkok. We're literally in reality. I will touch more on the reality TV aspect of the show, but I really don't think we can detach reality TV from capitalism, as reality TV treats contestants like products in order to optimize viewership. In Ready Set Love, all the contestants are like pawns in the game of the producers meant to increase viewership, and Day disrupts that. All of the winners of that milk carton lottery will get eliminated in the first round of the competition, but Day becomes a fan favorite because the people who watch Ready Set Love are all working class people who relate more to Day than a rich organic girl like Chanel. All of it culminates into the live final episode of the show, taking place in a huge stadium. Essentially, we have mostly working class people buying tickets to finance a show that is a sham and that has already determined its ending. In fact, the fact that Day, a lottery girl, gets to marry one of the gentlemen should already be considered a privilege. The irony of this show inside of the show definitely reflects how unfair and nonsensical capitalism is. Love is a product which is forced to happen. We see that in the character of Chanel, whose future marriage to Sun has been predetermined since they were kids, despite them having no chemistry nor true attraction to one another. In this show, the gentlemen are a product. They've been marketed and sold to their lonely female audience for years, a product used to attract everyone to the reality show like a honey trap for bees. However, the women of the show, even though all of them come from an insanely privileged background apart from Day, are also a product being sold and marketed to the gentlemen. They're also a product for the viewers of the show whose vote for the girls is supposed to count, but we all know that they don't. It's very clear that Ready Set Love, as original of a show as it is, and it really is one, is highly inspired by previously successful shows and movies. Firstly, we have Squid Game, whose influence is so clear since both shows are very colorful, try to have their own visual aesthetic, create special games and unforgettable moments for the viewer. Then we have another There Will Only Be One type of piece of media. Of course, it's Hunger Games. The similarity here is less aesthetic based, rather than the fact that both pieces of media tackle a reality show based on its participant performing for the viewers and being essentially pawns for a higher elite that controls the show. Both of them also have an unexpected ending due to its characters' refusal to comply with the rules set by that elite. Both of them are a clear critique of capitalism and the elite. Of course, the ending of Ready Set Love is slightly less nerve-wracking because it's not entirely a life and death situation like in Hunger Games. But one of my favorite aspects of the show, as I said before, is truly the fact that it has a slow descent into deeper topics as the show progresses, all the way into Not Me style protest at the end of the last episode. And yes, I will bring up Not Me in this video. The protest icon of all Thai dramas and the best Thai drama ever. Every time I see protests in a Thai piece of media, I'm like, not me! Lastly, I wanted to talk about the reality TV elements of that show, which those go hand in hand with capitalism, because it's inherently about the exploitation of human life for profit and entertainment. But also, reality TV is so popular in real life and in Ready Set Love the show because it reveals a lot about human nature. In the show, the women outside of the reality show, which is like pretty much everyone, live vicariously through the participants of the show and feel responsibility over them by either voting for them or not. Once again, I have to point out that it's crazy to me that a society that is composed mostly overwhelmingly by women would be so obsessed about five admittedly very handsome guys instead of like each other. But anyways, that's the writing choice that the show made. I will stop criticizing it. There is also the fact that the show is manufactured from the very beginning, which is very relatable to actual reality TV in our world. We have really seen how reality TV shows, especially in the world of Netflix, have become like world watching events. Especially shows like Love is Blind or The Ultimatum or Love Island, which are all over TikTok, Instagram Reels, or YouTube once a new season drops. Those shows have also been a source of great controversies due to the participants claiming abuse from the producers, being served only alcohol and very little food, so they're always intoxicated on set. And some participants coming on these dating shows having a whole ass wife at home, which is also reflected in Ready Set Love, where the outcome of the show is already predetermined through connections that Channel's mother has on the show as its biggest sponsor. The purpose of the reality TV show Ready Set Love is two things. One, profit, duh. And two, reinforcing strict gender roles and the rules to date men in that world, which ultimately ends up with more profit for the future seasons of that show because more women are aspiring to date the gentleman. It's a vicious circle where the participants and the gentlemen are barely people anymore and they're characters instead. And once a human becomes a character in the eyes of the public, they lose all of their humanity and fully become products to be exploited. When they rebel in the end after Chanel chooses Max over Son, they break the status quo. However, as the end shows us, not much changes after our heroes escape from the farm, and they're now being hunted by the true villain of the show, Chanel's mother. But it's also a realistic ending where one act of rebellion doesn't change the rotten system. But once again, just like the best show in the world, Not me. It's a start. In a way, the ending is the beginning of a whole new story of survival in a new world, entirely different than the one the characters experienced in that show. To conclude, I really enjoyed this show. It's always so nice to see Thai dramas actually get the budget they deserve, and seeing Ready Set Love in Netflix's top 10 shows of the week for consecutive weeks in a row was really, really nice to see. Especially for Thailand, a country that once again doesn't watch its own shows and prefers K-dramas and C-dramas over them. I think the execution of this show was really strong and I wouldn't mind a second season, which is like crazy for me to say because if you know me, you know I despise second seasons with my whole fucking body and soul. But I feel like these showrunners have shown me that they can be trustworthy. Am I becoming too trusting because I haven't watched a bad Thai sequel in a while? Perhaps. In any case, I really recommend this show and will continue to derive great joy from well-produced and executed Thai shows like this one, which are hilarious but also carry a way deeper message. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time and have a great day.